The assignment. The amphitheater aboard the Galactic Concord Military Academy, orbiting the fourth moon of Syraxis, was silent, eerily so. Rows of alien cadets sat motionless, their various eyes fixed on the central holoscreen. What began as a routine lesson in cross-species warfare tactics had taken a turn none of them anticipated. Sirin, a Solithan from a cold-blooded reptilian species, sat stiffly in her seat, her dark green scales dull under the room's lighting. Her twin hearts beat a fraction faster than normal. Not fear, she told herself, just stimulation. She glanced to her left at Athar, a chittering insectoid from the hive-mind Syraxi colonies. He looked frozen. His compound eyes were locked on the screen. On the dais, the guest lecturer stood with arms crossed. Colonel Marcus DeWitt, a grizzled human with gray hair, shaved close to his skull and deep lines around his steely eyes. Unlike other instructors, he didn't rely on holographic overlays or diagrams. He brought videos, real ones, human war footage. The first clip showed trenches filled with mud and blood. Men, barely more than boys, screamed as they charged into machine gun fire. Explosions tossed bodies like broken dolls. Gas-masked soldiers stumbled blindly, clutching at their throats as mustard gas seeped in. The second clip jumped forward in time. Urban warfare in crumbled cities, drone strikes, IED ambushes, and civilians caught in the crossfire. This, DeWitt said calmly, was humanity learning war. Not fighting for glory, fighting to survive. Sirin's claws curled into her chair's armrest. She tried to catalog the tactics: suppressive fire, fallback maneuvers, improvisation under duress. But it was hard to stay analytical when the screen showed a man crawling through barbed wire to throw himself on a grenade, to protect others. The murmur began softly. A tentacled cadet from Morvax. 9 leaned back, whispering, "Is this normal for them? I thought their kind were strategic thinkers." Another hissed, "This is madness." Colonel DeWitt didn't react. The footage continued. Nuclear blasts consuming cities, flamethrowers flushing enemies from tunnels, wounded soldiers using their own blood to scrawl final messages on walls. Finally, a scene played that froze the entire room. A human platoon, trapped on a snowy ridge, surrounded and low on ammunition. They sang. With frozen hands and bleeding wounds, they sang. The video ended with their last stand, outnumbered, outgunned, but holding the line. When the lights came back on, no one spoke. Ithar's mandibles clicked erratically. "Why show this to us?" he hissed. "Is this supposed to inspire us?" "It's meant to educate you," Colonel DeWitt said. "You study battles on clean simulations. But real war isn't neat. It's blood, fire, frostbite. Real war is when you've got nothing left but your will, and you still fight." A young avian cadet burst from her seat, wings flaring in panic. "This is savagery. If these are your warriors, what does that make your species?" DeWitt stepped forward slowly. "It makes us survivors. We didn't evolve on a paradise world. We climbed up from hell, screaming and clawing with sticks and fire." The academy director, a floating neural cluster encased in a silver exoshell, interrupted. "Colonel, I believe this content may be counterproductive. Several cadets have requested withdrawal from the seminar. Emotional instability is rising." "I expected as much," DeWitt said. "Doesn't change the facts. If these cadets are going to serve in real wars, they need to know what humans bring to a battlefield. Not just guns, and if that frightens them, better they learn it now than in combat." Sirin said nothing. Her mind buzzed with conflict. She had studied tactics from hundreds of species, fluid Syraxi retreats, Morvax adaptive formations, even Solithan cold logic raids. But humans, this was something else. They didn't just fight with weapons. They fought with everything. She looked again at the now dark screen and remembered the human soldier crawling through snow to save a wounded comrade. His leg had been shattered. He still dragged himself 10 meters under fire. Was it madness? Or something more? A message chimed in her wristpad. Combat curriculum suspended for 24 hours. All cadets required to report for mental stabilization protocols. Sirin ignored it. She had a new assignment now: understanding humanity. And for the first time since arriving at the academy, she felt uncertain. The breaking point. The meditation chamber smelled faintly of burnt ozone and ionized salts, a mix intended to calm most species. But for C.A. Rin, nothing was calming her thoughts. She sat rigid on the woven mat, her twin hearts still beating unevenly. Around her, other cadets fidgeted, shifted, or sat in brooding silence. The war footage had fractured something. She glanced across the chamber. Ithar, her closest friend at the academy, hadn't spoken a word since the seminar. His antennae twitched randomly, his limbs drawn tight to his carapace. "They enjoy it," hissed a voice nearby. Sarin turned to see Geltan, a tall, willowy humanoid from the Lyrian Confederacy. His glowing blue eyes narrowed. "You saw the footage. They kill each other over muddy fields. There was no tactical reason for it. No gain. Just slaughter. Not all of it was pointless," Sarin replied quietly. "Some of it was defense. Desperation." Geltan snorted. "You're defending them now? I'm trying to understand them." "They're monsters," said another cadet, a Morvax with 6 pupils blinking out of sync. "How can a species capable of that be allowed to serve in the Concord military? They're unstable. What if they turn on us next?" Ithar finally spoke, his voice chittering low. "You saw what they did to their own cities, their own people. If they can do that to each other, what would they do to an enemy?" That question lingered in the air like a blade. C.A. Rin said nothing. The others didn't understand, maybe couldn't. But she couldn't stop thinking about it. There was more to this puzzle. The footage had shown brutality, yes, but not joy in it. Not madness. There had been fear, sacrifice, courage, pain. Humanity hadn't glorified war. They had endured it. Later that evening, when the Academy's systems settled into low-power cycle, Ciarin slipped into the restricted access library node. She bypassed the standard curriculum with a few coded authorizations. Nothing illegal, just curious. Her fingers tapped swiftly as she searched for supplementary materials on Terran conflict psychology. She expected tactical breakdowns. Instead, she found voices, video logs, diaries, interviews with Terran soldiers. One video stood out. Corporal Alyssa Tran, forward medic, Siege of Damascus, Earth year 2137. The woman on screen looked exhausted. Her face was streaked with grime and blood, but her voice was steady. "We held that hospital for 5 days. No ammo left by the 3rd. Used scalpels and broken furniture to keep the enemy out. Not because of orders, those were gone. We did it because there were children inside, and because giving up meant they died." Ciarin stared, stunned. There was no glory in the woman's voice. No bravado. Only tired defiance. Another log followed. A pilot describing how she guided her burning ship away from city center, knowing she wouldn't survive. A Marine who carried a wounded enemy soldier back through enemy lines because he couldn't let anyone die alone. There was something deeper here. Something the initial footage didn't show. Not just the violence, but the choice to rise above it. She downloaded a few files and began assembling notes, her claws tapping nervously against the desk. The others had recoiled in horror. C.A. Rin felt the same. But instead of turning away, she wanted to know why. A message pinged across the Academy network. Cadet Ithar has submitted formal request for withdrawal from joint combat training modules involving humans. C.A. Rin frowned. It had begun. More notifications followed. 3 more cadets submitted concerns. One called the footage psychologically scarring. Another demanded a tribunal to assess Terran fitness for military integration. She logged off. The next morning, the Academy mess hall felt colder. Divided. Human instructors sat at an isolated table, eating in silence. Ciarin approached Ithar, but he pulled back slightly. "You're still watching the propaganda?" "It's not propaganda," she said. "It's testimony. These aren't monsters. They're complicated. They're dangerous." "Maybe," she admitted. "But aren't we all in the right conditions? The difference is humans remember those moments, and they tell the truth about them." He didn't respond. Ciarin stepped back, isolated but resolute. She'd seen the worst humanity could do, but now she'd seen the best, too. And she couldn't look away, understanding the fire. Colonel Marcus DeWitt sat alone in the Academy's Combat Strategy Observatory, sipping thick Terran black coffee and staring into the projection field, an interactive map of Earth, circa 1944. Battles flashed like fireflies across the globe. Normandy, Kursk, Midway, Saipan. The door hissed open behind him. Cadet Serin, he said without looking, figured it was just a matter of time. She stepped inside cautiously, tail flicking behind her with controlled tension. Permission to speak freely, sir? Granted. I don't understand your species. DeWitt finally turned. Good. If you did after one lecture, I'd be worried. I've read your files. I've seen the testimonies. I know humans don't enjoy war, but why didn't you evolve away from it? Other species did. The Serixi abandoned weapons for negotiation. The Lyrians merged war into ritual duels. But we refined it, DeWitt finished for her. Yeah, that's a usual line. You're not wrong, but you're not seeing the whole picture. He stood and walked to the projection field. A ruined city emerged in 3D Stalingrad. Snow drifted in simulated flakes. Smoke rose from broken buildings. This wasn't victory. This was survival. The humans trapped here were cold, starving, and dying by the thousands. But they refused to surrender. Not out of pride, out of need, because if they lost, their people died. It wasn't about conquest. It was about refusing to vanish. C.A. Rin frowned. But that level of resistance, the suffering, DeWitt's expression hardened. You think we're unique in suffering? Every species suffers. But humanity, we remember every wound. We put in our books, paintings, films, songs. We pass down the pain so we don't forget. That's why we fight so hard. Because deep down, we know how fragile everything is. He tapped the screen, and it shifted to a different image. Earth, post-nuclear war, year 2179. Forests regrowing. Cities rebuilt. We broke the world more than once, DeWitt said. And we put it back together each time. C.A. Rin was quiet. Her mind raced, thoughts colliding like charged particles. My peers think you're monsters, she said softly. But monsters don't bury their dead with honor. Monsters don't cry when the innocent are lost. I've watched your soldiers carry wounded enemies. I've seen them defy orders to save civilians. She met his gaze. You're not monsters. You're fire. You destroy, but you also light the way. DeWitt chuckled, the sound gravelly. No one's ever put it like that. I want to show the others, she said. The cadets who are afraid. The ones who only saw the horror. They need to see the why behind it. Not just the blood, but the soul that bled. DeWitt leaned back against the console. That's a hard message to sell. Most want war to be simple. Bad versus good. Order versus chaos. But it never is. I've seen enough to know that simplicity is a lie, Serin replied. The next day, with the Academy's reluctant permission, Serin assembled a presentation for the cadets who hadn't withdrawn. The lecture hall was barely half full. Several alien species still refused to attend anything human-related. But those who came saw a different kind of footage. Not just battles, but acts of sacrifice, kindness, resilience. A human medic shielding a wounded alien child during the Vargon skirmishes. A battered infantry unit carrying out both their wounded and the enemies after a ceasefire. A video log of a human captain who disobeyed a bombing order when it risked innocent lives, losing his rank but saving a village. This is the other side, Serin said, standing at the front. You saw the violence. Now see the mercy. Humanity is both pain and compassion, fire and memory. A murmur rippled through the cadets. Some watched silently. Others looked away, unsure. Ithar sat at the back, arms crossed. But he didn't leave. When the lights came up, no one spoke for a while. Then a voice said quietly, maybe we judged them too quickly. Later that evening, DeWitt met Serin outside the observatory. You did good, he said. Some of them are listening. Not all, she replied. But maybe that's enough. DeWitt nodded. You want to understand humanity? Here's the secret. We never give up. Not on a fight. Not on ourselves. Not even when we should. Serin smiled faintly. Then perhaps that's why the galaxy needs you. Cadets of the future. 3 weeks after the fateful war footage seminar, The Galactic Concord Military Academy's simulation hangar buzzed with tension. Cadet Seren stood at the edge of the training deck, her breath slow and measured, eyes locked on the map projected across the dome above. The scenario was simple. On paper, urban resistance under siege. But this time, the simulation was based on a human historical event, Stalingrad. Most cadets had protested when it was first announced. Too brutal, too unpredictable, too human. But the Academy Council had approved it. Now, teams from 5 species, including humans, stood ready in their armor, blinking at the flickering city skyline and snow-covered ruins that formed the terrain below. "I take it this was your idea," said Athar, stepping beside her in full exosuit, wings clamped tight. Seren didn't look at him. It was a test, but not of tactics. Of what, then? Of resolve, she said. The simulation began with no fanfare. Within minutes, the cadets realized the truth. Standard formation tactics wouldn't work. The simulated enemy fought like humans. Improvised ambushes, guerrilla traps, psychological pressure. Cadets fell out of sync, confused and disoriented. Seren watched carefully from the command center, then activated her comm. Team Delta, fall back into the supply depot. Tight quarters favor defense. You're thinking like generals. Think like survivors. The Lyrian officer on Delta hesitated, then followed the command. Elsewhere, a Morvac sniper unit was pinned down. Seren rerouted a pair of human cadets to flank the enemy from a sewer tunnel. An unconventional move, but one that worked. One by one, the cadets adapted. By the final hour, the mixed-species unit held the simulation zone. It was a messy, desperate victory, but a victory nonetheless. After the sim ended, the cadets sat on the cold metal benches of the debriefing hall, still catching their breath. Colonel DeWitt entered, eyes sweeping across them. "You all look like hell," he said. A few chuckles broke the silence. "But," he added, "you fought like humans. That's not an insult. That's the highest compliment I can give you." He gestured to the screen behind him, showing an old Terran image, a battered flag raised above rubble. "War, for us, was never clean. We didn't win with perfect maneuvers. We won with grit, with desperation, with that fire cadet Seren keeps talking about. Some of you learned that today." He turned to Seren. "Cadet, front and center." She stood, feeling every eye on her. "You've demonstrated not just tactical flexibility," DeWitt said, "but insight. Leadership, the ability to see through fear and into the heart of the enemy and the ally. You've reminded this academy why humanity was invited into the Concord in the first place." He paused, then added, "I'm recommending you for cross-species assignment to the Terran Joint Operations Corps." A ripple of murmurs moved through the crowd. Seren blinked. "Sir, you want to understand humans? Join them. See what that fire looks like up close." She hesitated, then nodded. "I will." Later that night, as the moons rose over the domed academy gardens, Ithar found her alone near the reflection pond. "You're really going to Earth?" he asked. "Yes. To fight beside them, to learn from them," she replied. He clicked his mandibles thoughtfully. "You changed. Since that seminar." "No," she said. "I just stopped looking away." He gave a low hum of approval. "Maybe I should stop too." Seren smiled. "Then come visit. I hear Earth's wars are terrifying, but the people, they're unforgettable." They stood there, silent for a moment, the stars reflecting in the pond's still surface. Humanity had once terrified the galaxy. Now, perhaps, they were teaching it what it meant to endure.